Welcome to an extra magical episode of The Metal Nerd. I am your host, Jared Poirier, and today is a very special day because I have a review of one of the most popular rock and metal bands out there representing Satan. That's right, today we are going to review the brand new album IMPERA by Swedish rock and metal band Ghost. But first, I just want to let you know about my Patreon. You guys know the drill. Link down in the description. You can support me on Patreon. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's get into this album. All right, so I've been a fan of Ghost since the very beginning, ever since they dropped their first album, Opus Eponymous. Kind of sounds like hippopotamus now that I think about it, in 2010. I've seen Ghost live, I think 3 times. Definitely a band that I enjoy. I've liked pretty much all of their releases. I think my favorite album of theirs is Meliora. Anyway, if you're wondering, there are a lot of bands out there that do kind of a satanic gimmick and are all about those types of theatrics. And what makes Ghost different? Well, Ghost melds together a lot of different genres. A lot of people have noted their doom metal roots, but they also bring in a lot of pop and classic rock influence. The way that I explained this band to my drummer Mark last night, it's like if Black Sabbath was also ABBA. They have this whole gimmick about being Satanists and stuff for a long time. Everyone's identity was secret. Now, not to ruin it, we know that it's this guy, Tobias Forge. He's the singer and mastermind behind Ghost. I think the Nameless Ghouls are still just the Nameless Ghouls, though. And as I said, they have a lot of satanic and occult imagery and themes in their music. And sometimes they have songs about like zombies and mummies and stuff. So for that reason, people have called them Scooby-Doo metal. I think that they realize that what they're doing isn't 100% serious. It's pretty tongue-in-cheek, especially on this new album here. I think it's safe to say that there's a level of irony to everything that Ghost does. But yeah, as I said, this is an incredibly popular band. They've toured with the biggest acts in metal like Iron Maiden and Metallica. And it's definitely pop music, but undeniably, they're a force in the music industry. And as a fan of Ghost myself, I acknowledge that they basically have a formula, but at times they really deviate from the formula. And going into this album here, IMPERA, I was really excited to see what kind of new flair and ideas that they were going to bring to the table. All right, so there's just a bit of the history of Ghost. Now let's talk about this brand new release here. So looking at the album cover and, reading some of the titles and lyrics on this album, it's, pretty freaking obvious that this whole thing is inspired by Aleister Crowley. The album artwork is an incredibly direct reference to Crowley. One of the first singles was Call Me Little Sunshine, which was something Crowley was known to say. So who was Aleister Crowley? He was a 19th century English occultist. He did a lot of magical rituals and stuff. People claim that he was the wickedest man in the world, but reading up on him, as far as I can tell, he basically just did a lot of drugs, had a lot of sex, and went mountain climbing. Anyway, aside from the Crowley stuff, what did I think about this album? Of course, with Ghost, as expected, we have really great production on this release. I really enjoyed the layered composition on a lot of these tracks. I found many of them to be very catchy. Some of them stick in your head, like pop music. The whole album has like an 80s arena rock thing going on. But us prog metal fans and people who are into just things that are a little bit more experimental, I think that there's a lot to love on this album as well for those people. There's some really great guitar work on this album, some really nice riffs, some really nice solos, and even, surprisingly, against formula, some shredding. With the vocals, I find that Tobias Forge is getting quite a bit more comfortable behind the mic, and he's giving one of his best performances to date. In some ways, there's places where I think that comfort led him astray a little bit, but we'll get into that later. Okay, this album is 12 songs long. A couple of those songs are like super short, interlude-y things. The album's 46 minutes. I want to give Ghost their proper respect and go through each one of these track by track. So the album starts off with the opening track, Imperium. I think that this was a good start to the album, kind of an emotional build-up with a pretty unearned, like Beatles-style crescendo at the end. Kytherion comes next in the second slot. This track had me instantly excited about this album. mainly because of the overall musicality on display here. Again, evoking kind of that prog rock thing. This track kind of reminds me of Rush. After that, we have Spillways, which is an enjoyable enough song. It's very 80s. Not a whole lot to chew on. I think that the vocals are good. It's a catchy tune. There's a mention of feeding a cruel beast or whatever. Probably a bit of a surface level Crowley reference there. After that, we have Call Me Little Sunshine, a track that I already have a reaction video on, so I won't say too much about it here. Very overt reference to Crowley, the Call Me Little Sunshine thing, the reference to invoking Mephistopheles, that's like a demon. I don't know if just saying his name accidentally summoned a demon into your house or whatever, guys. So if it did, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, it's an enjoyable, creepy track. I like the organs. All right, next track. Then we have another tune that's been out for a while, Hunter's Moon. This track is fine. Doesn't really stick with you. It's a little bit forgettable, but I like how it sits in the track listing overall, I guess. After that, there's Watcher in the Sky, another incredibly 80s track. This one is also very repetitive, and it does that thing that Iron Maiden was guilty of for a while, like especially on Dance of Death. Oh, Brave New Worlds, even more so, you know, where they'll just say, the chorus will just be like saying the same thing over and over again, like, a brave new world, you know? What's something nice I can say about this track? I like how the bass sounds. I think it really stands out. And that's one thing that I really like about Ghost is they'll have some little extra bass fills and stuff so it doesn't blend in so much with the guitar, something that they do very well. Dominion is super short, not even really a song, kind of just sets the mood a little bit. Wouldn't be out of place scoring like a Stanley Kubrick movie or something like that. After that, we get 20s, which there's a lot of people that like this song, but to me, this is the worst Ghost song, probably. The only thing that really rivals it is their cover of ABBA's I'm a Marionette. I don't know. I just don't vibe with this song whatsoever. I skip it every time that I listen through this album. After that, it's The Darkness at the Heart of My Love. This is one of my favorite songs on the album. Definitely a standout for me. I really love the chorus vocals on this thing. I really love the incredibly vibrant solo. And just the little things like that nice little snap in there. And of course, you have some Crowley references here. Painting a pair of eyes. Crowley was a painter later in life. Again, it's not like a super deep reference. Then it's Griftwood, and I don't mean to sound repetitive here, but this is another 80s 80s rock song. Again, I really love how the bass stands out on this track. I really like the Holy Mother part. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Devin Townsend. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that this song kind of has some inexcusably generic lyrics. I'm your rock, baby. I won't back down. Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe they were being like generic to be ironic or something, but I feel like a lot of the lyrics on this album could have, had an editor kind of pass through them. You know what I mean? But overall, it's an enjoyable track. It leads into Bite of Passage. It's 30 seconds, not much to it, and creates a little bit of atmosphere. And finally, we are left with Respite on the Spittle Fields. Very weird title for a song. But there are some other interesting references in this song. There's a reference to the Seven Sisters and Saint Jezebel, some other blasphemous people, I guess, that are mentioned in the Bible. Anyway, I like this song. Some people might think it's too long. I really appreciate the outro on it quite a bit. Love the harmonics on there. Just a good song. Ends the album off well. Okay, here are my final thoughts on IMPERA by Ghost. Overall, I enjoyed this album quite a bit. I appreciated that they experimented a bit with the formula here. And I'm glad that Ghost took the approach of crafting a album that's cohesive, thematically. But at the end of the day, it's pop music, guys. It's enjoyable while you're listening to it, but don't really expect it to change your life. And, It's just not the type of thing that you're going to put on for your music nerd friends, and it's going to blow their minds. I mean, with a lot of these tracks, they're basically just ripping off Bon Jovi. You're not bringing that much new to the table, and they're not really pushing boundaries. I think that the lyrics are the weakest part of this album overall. There are some references to Crowley, but I think that I wanted them to cut a little bit deeper. And I also found that some of the lyrics on this album are just super random in like a Anthony Kiedis way, you know? I went down and played the bombas in California, and it's nice to finally meet your mama, and shit like that, right? You know what I'm talking about. Dancing in a rain of panties. Like, what does that mean? But you know, it's an entertaining album. It's one that when I go to listen to this album, I don't just put on one or two songs. I listen to the entire album, and I've done that probably 10 times since it came out, and that's saying something. So I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments what you think about that score. Did you love this album? Do you absolutely hate it? I'd love to read your opinions and get back to you. Before I get out of here, I just want to tell you guys about my Patreon. If you check me out on Patreon, you can support the channel. You can give me $1 every month, help me make this content more regularly. If you're a true metalhead, you can become a producer, and then you get to tell me what to react to. Other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. You know I do. And I will see you guys next time.